Howdy, folks. Welcome back and welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show, and we are extremely proud to have you. Well, I must tell you, we're down one tonight, unexpectedly. I am joined in the Hilltop Studios by...
I'm a surefire.
And that's it. Uncle Bocce is absent. He took a fall. That is all that we know right now. And what'd you say? He said he had 25 stitches in his head. So, you know, on the one hand, it's a shame that he took the fall, and even worse that it required 25 stitches, so he must have landed on something. The only saving grace is that he landed on his head, which was the hardest part of his body, so that, you know, the damages were probably minimized because of that.
That's true. Poor Bocce.
Bocce, get well, man. We need you.
Yeah.
So I have the luxury of, normally when we do the broadcast, I stand up. It's just an old habit of energizing. I am more energized when I'm standing than when I'm sitting. But tonight I'm sitting in Uncle Bocce's chair, so if I sound a lot older than normal, you'll understand why.
Did you see my eyes rolling? Or did you hear my eyes rolling?
Hear the eyes rolling. We are all over, for now, the social media as Doc Owen Show, DocOwenShow. We have a blog at DocOwenShow.com. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. Everything is Doc Owen Show. So we are not that difficult to find, nor to tell your friends how to find us. If you can just simply remember how to spell DocOwenShow, they should be able to find us. We also have on the Apple and the Android devices a free, that is at zero charge, app, which you can download the app at your appropriate store, and it will automatically load with our entire reservoir of shows, as well as that's a good place to listen live. I mean, if you follow us, you'll get a tweet that says we're on. All you got to do is click on it, and there you are. So no matter where you are, you don't have to miss the live broadcast. And if you do that, we live on. Each show lives on for a week on various and sundry networks around the internet.
Yep.
So, it's on somewhere every day of the week.
All you have to do, just go on the good old Google, and just type in Doc space Owen space show, and you'll get a slew of avenues to listen to the podcast.
Yeah. You don't type in space. You go Doc, hit the space bar, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to be perfectly clear.
I was clear. Next item.
I told you we were missing Uncle Bocce. I mean, when you're used to doing it with three people, it's a little different. We do have a very good show for you tonight. We've got two hot topics. They may seem local to you. Local to you, they may seem local to us, is exactly the way to say it. But I think I will help you make the conversion to your hometown, your area, situations and events that are relevant in your own sphere that you live in, even though you're outside of San Antonio. The primary thing we're going to do is we're going to have an interview with a lady by the name of Lee White. Ms. White is what the Doc Owen Show calls a WFA. If you're not familiar with the term, it stands for World's Foremost Authority.
Yep.
She is a WFA on the Alamo. I make the assumption, particularly in the United States, that everyone has heard of the Alamo. You all know the phrase, remember the Alamo. You may or may not know what that means. You may or may not know, certainly you know how cherished it is in the hearts of Texans, but it should be cherished in the hearts of everyone who loves liberty and freedom. because that's what that fight was about. And that's what 100+ patriots died to protect. So the Alamo, if you're not aware, is under attack. And by that we mean there is it's just almost part of the Confederate monument wave of history revision that a certain element within our population is bound and determined to wipe out everything that Trump and others have gone about creating support for. In other words, Make America Great Again just triggers a certain element in some people, and they are bound and determined to do things that prevent that show of greatness and that show of exceptionalism, as if the world is offended by us being exceptional, us being America, not present company. It's not about that's the whole idea that people don't get. When we say we're exceptional, we don't mean as individuals we are exceptional in any way, shape, or form. What we mean is as a collective, as a community, as a country known as the United States. In that regard, we absolutely are exceptional. So, closer? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like I can hear you talking, but I don't see the marks going.
Okay, well, that's a shame because I hope the audience got it. It probably went out there in a certain way.
Probably so.
At any rate, we will get back to our, that was my little piece of the soapbox that I'm probably going to get on from time to time tonight. And then following the Alamo, we will have an update on a local fight that's going on, which has an impact on the Alamo. And it's about 3 propositions that are going on to the November ballot here that were put together. The petitions were signed. All the homework was done by the San Antonio Firefighters Association. Thank you, gentlemen, for your service. And thank you for your service in this respect.
Yeah.
So we will talk about that and have an update on where we stand with that and a little ditty. So without going into any further what the show is about, we will begin in our traditional manner, absent the history lesson. And Ms. Surefire will give us an incident of inspiration, and I'll try to close it with a leadership quote, and then we will dive into the show. So, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And before I say my quote, I just got to say if I sound a little funky, I have a sinus infection. I think the show got cursed or something. Because Bocce fell, I got sick, and that's it for now. Thank God. Okay.
Yeah.
So, tonight's quote comes from one of the older sites I've used before, and it's called PassItOn.com.
Yeah.
And tonight's quote comes from a gentleman that I think a lot of people heard, probably not everyone, but a lot of people. And his name is Yo-Yo Ma.
Oh.
And it's a person, it's not a toy, called Yo-Yo.
Love it. Celloist.
Yes. He was a child prodigy that was born in Paris and came to America, and now has become a famous cellist. And his quote is, "Passion is one great force that unleashes creativity. Because if you're passionate about something, then you're more willing to take risks."
Okay, passion releases creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then he winds up by saying, creativity is an expression of risk. Is what you're saying.
It's kind of like pushing the envelope, you know. Let's see how far we can push it.
Yeah, folks that are willing to take a risk become creative in their solutions and things that they provide. I got it.
Yep.
Because, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. Good job.
Yep.
Mine is very brief, and it's from a gentleman that, I was alive and remembering. Dwight David Eisenhower. President of the United States, that warned us in his exit speech as he turned the reins over about the deep state. And he was turning the reins over to John F. Kennedy. We voice our hope and our belief that we can help to heal this divided world.
Yep. That's true.
And that was what I was talking about earlier about American exceptionalism. Before Surefire told me it might not be picked up in the mic because I was too far away using somebody else's mic. So let me give you just a very brief background on the conversation that you are about to hear. We were lucky enough a little earlier in the week to sit down and chat for almost a half an hour with a lady by the name of Lee White. And I mean, from the very beginning, she is on it. I had no idea to whom I was really going to be speaking. I mean, I knew her name, and the name of her outfit is the Alamo Defenders Descendants Association. To be specific, ADDA. You will give the web address as part of the conversation. It's the Alamo Defend. You can just look up Alamo Defenders, and you will get there. And turns out, she is an absolute wealth of information, and not just information. Substantiate. You can substantiate her facts, and she has been digging into this and following the history of the Alamo for quite a few years. So we were extremely honored and very, very pleased with what we learned. I think if you pay attention and, keep tracking and learn how to do a podcast, because you can go back and listen to it anytime, anywhere again, and in chunks, these are just real nuggets as to why the Alamo is so important to all of us, San Antonio, Texas, United States, and the world, in terms of preserving it as is, where it is, and not turning it into some Disneyland type showplace to generate revenue for the local government. And that's the fight that we're going through right now. So, if you will, Ms. Surefire will hit the magic button and enjoy the conversation. Surefire will get her done.
Okay.
We are about to have a conversation with a young lady by the name of Lee White, who, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. White, about the name of your group is the Alamo Defenders. Is that the official name, or tell the folks real quickly how they can find you?
Okay, the official name is Alamo Defenders Descendants Association. You can find us on Facebook, and also we have a website under that same name, Alamo Descendants, Alamo Defender Descendants. You can find us.
Okay, that's great. And so, obviously, but maybe not to everyone, the topic of the conversation is going to, and anybody that listens to the show knows this over the past couple of years, actually, we started sounding the alarm bells in terms of the Alamo, which is a cherished structure, and its surrounds, which includes a thing called a cenotaph, and we're going to get Lee to explain what that is. And then, but they are the local authorities are trying to do a thing they're calling Reimagine the Alamo. And there are those of us, such as Ms. White and this show, that don't believe it needs a lot of reimagining. It might need some refurbishing, but the imagination, the imagine part, is already there and cast in stone, no pun intended, and defended by the heroes of the Alamo. and we're going to put some emphasis on that word heroes, and that's another story that's going on in the textbooks. So that gives you the audience a little bit of background. Ms. White, I know you would have jumped in there had I said anything inaccurate.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to tell our listeners, first of all, what in the heck is a cenotaph? Well, it's a fancy Greek word for empty tomb.
Aha.
And because the Alamo defenders' bodies were burned, and we had no bodies to honor or to memorialize with a true tomb, in the 1930s, the state of Texas and the federal government decided they were very ashamed as the 100th anniversary of the Republic of Texas and the Battle of the Alamo was coming about. They were ashamed that they had not memorialized the defenders. So they hired the best sculptor in the world and designed a very impressive 60-foot tall monument to act as a empty tomb. And on this structure, you'll see an actual tomb that comes out. And from this tomb, there's a spirit that rises up out of the burning bodies because the Mexican army burned the bodies. That's why we don't have bodies.
Right.
There's a spirit coming out of there, the spirit of sacrifice, and where the defenders sacrificed their lives so that Texas might be born. And so it's a very, very important symbol which sits in the heart of the plaza, which is an appropriate place because by 1930, the city of San Antonio had already grown up around the Alamo like it is today.
Yep.
And there's a newspaper article that says we're ashamed of that. And so we are presenting this in to your memory and to try to make amends for the city of San Antonio encroaching upon this hallowed ground. So it has sat there since the 1930s. And it's a magnificent piece. And all of a sudden, someone's decided they don't like it being right there where it is. They want it moved on the outside of the walls of the Alamo, which I'm absolutely against. Everyone wants to say we remember the Alamo. The city of San Antonio, the state of Texas wants to make money on the Alamo, but they will not even give a little bit of respect to the defenders themselves by leaving their headstone, their empty tomb, in the middle of the plaza.
Thank you. No, I'm serious. I mean, you answered a lot of questions that our listeners are going to have, and there's one element about this that I want to make sure that I'm clear about, and that is, it's my understanding that it's written into law somewhere either in the city archives or the state of Texas or somewhere, it's written into law that cenotaph, where it is, shall not be moved. Are you?
Well, actually, I'm familiar with that, and you are correct. Now, here's the thing. What it was in the 1930s, the federal government deeded a particular piece of land, which is exactly under the cenotaph, and the cenotaph to the city of San Antonio.
Okay.
Why? Because they wanted them to preserve it. Frankly, the city of San Antonio is in breach of their contract. They have not preserved it. Now, this is a very old, unusual kind of document, and what it is an ordinance/deed. It says this is a deed, and there's a deed restriction here. The deed restriction says the land upon which it sits, referring to the cenotaph, cannot be used for anything else. Now, I'm going to tell you, the city of San Antonio thinks that they're above the law, and, hey, as long as we put it in some prominent place, we're okay. Well, nowhere in there does it state that. It doesn't state anything about being a prominent place. It states being right there.
Well, you just said a mouthful, and I thought from a meeting that we went to that you were the person that was talking about that. And
yes.
Good. And as to the city, in particular, our current administration. Let's kind of zero it in on that so that our listeners don't think the entire town is filled with folks that you just described. But I'm gonna try to be a tad delicate about this, but not really. The listeners to the show. And for your information, Ms. White, last week we talked about the current administration and the fight that's going on with propositions A, B, and C coming out of the San Antonio firefighters. So, unfortunately, we're being attacked. We, the citizens, are being attacked on multiple fronts with the same sort of administrative, we know better than you attitude. And they say, well, you can vote them out in 2 years. Yeah, and in 2 years, the damage is done. And,
that's right.
And as we know about anything else, it'll not only be extremely difficult to move the cenotaph, I would submit to you it'll be close to impossible to move it back. Just because of the nature of the beast. So, what do we do? What's your proposal? I know you've thought through all of this. You go to every meeting. You go to every opportunity you have to talk about the sanctity of the cenotaph and the Alamo. And by the way, thank you very, very much for doing that.
Well, you're welcome.
Well, I mean, it's big, and I've been saying it for almost 2 years that these days were coming.
Yes. So, well, I'd like to touch upon a fact that the city of San Antonio had deep sixed or hidden an assessment survey. I had been saying from the very beginning, let me try to find an engineer, someone. We can't just take this apart. They hire some city workers and start taking a chisel. Old Bob and Joe down there. I don't feel real comfortable about Bob and Joe touching this. This is like the Washington Monument. It's like the Tomb of the Unsung Soldier. You just don't let an inexperienced guy that's working for you, hey, go take it down and move it. Well, so I couldn't believe that there had not been some type of assessment, some type of study. Well, There had been, and they deep sixed it. Why did they deep six it? Because it says there's nothing really major wrong with the cenotaph. See, they've used as an excuse, hey, it's crumbling, it's going to fall on your head, it's disintegrating, it's rusting. Well, first of all, it's not even made out of metal in the inside, it's concrete. It's like a concrete Lego set. And on top of there, they have actually used aluminum fasteners to fasten this marble, and then it was grouted. It is designed to have water run through it, the top and out the bottom. It was designed to stand hundreds of years. Now, the foundation is 22 feet deep, shows no sign of cracking, no sign of tilting. There are some tiles that are out of kilter, yes, and this assessment addresses that and says it can all be fixed for under $200,000. Now, it's going to take $3 million to move it, guys.
Yeah.
So even if you don't like it there, you think it needs to be over in front of the Minger, which I adamantly oppose, because that's outside those walls.
Right.
We want to keep them on the ground they died for. That's the least you can do. You're going to make millions every year out of the bones of these defenders. The least you can do is honor them where they died. Now, so let's go back to this assessment. All right, so let's say that they do some more study, and maybe there is something wrong that they haven't seen.
That study that you talk about, they deep sixed. How long ago was that? Do you recall?
4 years ago. They 4 years ago.
So all of this crumbling and disillusion.
Baloney.
Yeah. Okay. Nice work.
It's pure baloney.
We say bull sugar.
Okay, bullshit. Baloney. So what it is, from what I can tell, from months and months and months, and actually a year now, of trying to find out why do you want to move this thing? Because I don't believe in any of your smoke screens. It's not crumbling down.
Yeah. So where are you really coming from? Yeah.
Right. Then I heard, well, it's modern and we want everything to be historic, everything historic there. But yet now I find out they're going to put sculptures to different people. There's an Indian chief over here, and there's a Travis over there, and so all these modern things. So that's not true.
Right.
So what exactly is your problem here?
Yeah, well,
and I think it comes down to wanting. Well, let me say, one of the city councilmen said it's just not fair for the defenders to take the center stage. It's not fair to all the rest of the history. Now, I say baloney on that. This was saved because it's the cradle of Texas liberty. And so the defender should be the shining star. Do we want to tell other people's history? Sure, we don't have a problem with that, but it shouldn't be equal. No.
No, we won, they lost. End of conversation. And that's I think I'm with you. We are very close to being on the same page. You're a little bit more politically correct with your presentation of it, but I like the way you go. I do like the way you go back and forth between the emotional as well as the logical, and right. You do so whichever avenue somebody wants to go down in terms of trying to convince us that it's the right thing to do. To me, there's certainly no logical reason to move it, and I have a hard time finding the emotional unless it's the fact that to me it's almost like the same national tirade that's going on trying to take down all the Confederate references within the country. And I mean, I'm real sorry that we had a civil war, and I'm real sorry that at one point in time the country practiced slavery, but I haven't talked to anybody yet that condones either the slavery, case in point, the Civil War really wasn't about slavery to begin with. So to me, it's just this whole thing about the Alamo and the cenotaph is almost wrapped up in the same mania that the country is going through, or certain sections of the country.
I think the mania is going around it, and in a way we're wrapped up, not because of the slavery issue are we wrapped up in it.
Well,
there were about 5 slaveholders in there. The majority were not. Matter of fact, we have a lot of them from the north. But at any rate, we have Chicanos in there. We have a little everyone. But my thing that I think that's happening, or what I feel is happening with the mania, what the mania is we're not allowed to have a hero. We're not allowed to have a good guy.
I like your observation.
They want to say, well, those heroes weren't perfect, and I say, no, they weren't. No, tomorrow we're going to be talking about 9/11. Those firemen that died rescuing people, I call them heroic. Were they perfect? Doubt it.
Well,
so we need to redefine what our hero is, and it's not some athlete or celebrity as a hero.
Thank you. And there will be some people, and there are, unfortunately, I refer to them as misguided. There'll be some people on the 9/11 conversation that'll adamantly tell you we brought it upon ourselves and we got what we deserved. And I mean, I'm not saying that I side with them. The reason I brought up that about slavery was because I had a conversation online with a group a day or two ago, and about the Alamo and then the cenotaph, et cetera. And the conversation, parts of the conversation turned to slavery, like we were, creating heroes out of slave owners, and I'm like, come on, guys. I get so frustrated. I rarely am I at a loss for words, but when it comes to, I mean, that happens. Well, I mean, it's like that comedian says, you just can't fix stupid.
Well, and here's the thing, is on the slavery issue, I just said a few moments ago we had some slaveholders there. Yes, we had slavery in Texas. We had slavery in Mexico. As a matter of fact, the Navarro family held slaves at a certain point.
Sure.
Anyone at the bottom line that ever had money, whether they black themselves, or whether they were Indians or whatever, it tends to be more of the color green was running that.
Yep.
But let's get back to the Alamo. I am an expert on slavery in the Alamo. I wrote a book called Joe the Slave, who became an Alamo legend. And it's and I'm not bragging, but it has won a lot of awards. And I'm just saying that because I feel like I am an expert on slavery in the Alamo. And I'll tell you that slavery was not the big issue coming from the Alamo. Every letter written out of there did not say, hey, Martha, if we should win this, we can bring more slaves to Texas.
No.
Now, again, I'm making that simplistic, absolutely simplistic. I totally understand that. But I think that we are getting sidetracked or hijacked into a slavery issue conversation when the conversation should be, Is the Alamo worth saving? Is it important? If it is, then the Alamo Defenders are important. If they're important, then their monument's important. And you certainly don't move a headstone, a monument, off of the ground they died on. That's how simple this is.
Lee, how can you possibly be so logical with something that's so emotional? You don't fight fair, do you?
No, sir. I try to fight to win.
Tell me about this book. What's the name of it?
Well, it's called Joe, the Slave Who Became an Alamo Legend. And Joe was the manservant slave, but the manservant was his job of William Barrett Travis. And he's the one that came back and told us what we know about the Battle of the Alamo. He actually testified in Washington on the Brazos to let the government know what occurred. So he's really our eyes and ears at the Alamo, yes.
I am... You are what we call a WFA on the Doc Owen Show, and you need to take that proudly to Austin. You know what a WFA is?
No idea.
It is a world's foremost authority. You are. I love it. What a gem. What a find. I'm gonna have to go get a copy of that book.
You do, and you can get on Amazon.com, and it'll tell you things that you didn't know about the Alamo.
I absolutely will, because I read all I can about it.
Yeah, it really is. It really is fascinating. It took us well over a decade just to research it. 5 states and into Mexico, hunting this man named Joe, and his story and his legacy.
Ain't you something? Well, how interesting. Nice little tilt to the conversation for the audience here. That's pretty cool.
Well, my conversation I want to stay on is that Senate task, and I'm
Yes.
really concerned about them wanting to wall things off. And I'll tell you what, the GLO and the city of San Antonio are not telling the people the full truth. They're lying by omission because they plan on putting up walls around there. They plan on keeping the citizens out of there.
Of course
they plan on hurting them through like Disneyland. And that's no joke. It's no exaggeration. And they know that they will fail if they show us the whole plan.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've had a few of them flip and tell me, because they're going to say, well, we're going to keep it certain hours open. Well, you know as well as I do, it wouldn't take 6 months to say, oh, it's costing us too much money to have guards out there, so we're going to have to close.
As long as I show them a local utility bill, they're going to let me in for free. Right.
Yeah.
I can hear it coming now. Yep.
It's coming, and I'll tell you what, that hurting them through the little gift shop and trying to sell them the tickets, and already they're so cheesy. They're trying to take your picture at the front door of the Alamo like you're getting on a cruise ship, for God's sake. I tell you, it's shameful what they're already doing, and if we let them run carte blanche and do whatever they want to do, this is just going to get worse. And I'll tell you what, I believe with all my heart that the only love they have for the Alamo is for the profit.
Of course.
And they are gnawing on the bones of the Alamo Defenders in order to make $1. And
absolutely.
It's shameful.
I agree. I completely agree with you. And it incenses me to no end. But I also get the reason I have to back off is I get so frustrated that your message, which I happen to completely agree with, does not come through loud enough.
No.
I mean, how do we? So where? I mean, I know we are in a lot worse shape than we're being told in terms of keeping it from being moved. How can we stop it? Short of armed rebellion at 2:30 in the morning when they decide that they're going to finally yank the plug on it.
Well, armed rebellion at 2:30 in the morning, unfortunately, doesn't work anymore.
Well.
But there should be a huge outcry. But I'm hoping to stop them before that. And
how you
there's
go?
all kinds of.
I don't want you to give away your strategy, but
well, I can't do that, though.
I understand. But are there things that the show can do that our audience can do that will help and contribute to your efforts? Not detract from, but, add value to what you're doing?
Well, Doc, it's been hard for me to get in the newspapers, and, of course, I'd love to go national. I want the world to hear what's happening, because the Alamo belongs not just to the Texans, but to the world. Its message belongs to the world.
Are we on the same page or what? I've been saying that for 2 years. Go ahead.
Well, here's the problem. You've got some politicians in Austin who are, pretend that they're not listening or pretend they don't know. When you say, "Hey, what's going on here, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General?" Stand up here, fight, stand up here, and fight. Well, they'll either pass the buck, not my deal. That's not my lane. That's the city of San Antonio. They'll give all kinds of excuses. Or the most famous one is, "Well, I didn't know about that." Well, funny thing, the convention held in San Antonio made it part of their platform to not move the cenotaph. So if you're a Republican, I would assume you knew your party's platform.
The state party's platform.
The state party's platform. Do not move the cenotaph. It's in there.
Okay.
And so to your listeners, please, just continue to call, email, drive those guys crazy. The GLO, which is Commissioner Bush,
General Land
Governor,
Office, for those of you not familiar.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, the General Land Office. And because they just think they can do whatever they want, and we're just the peons down here. And you know what? We're gonna force this on them, make them eat it, and tell them they like it.
Well, I hope we get to the point that we figure out what scares them enough to back off.
Cutting their money off. Call your representative and your senators. What makes them tremble is cut the money off.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. I knew the answer.
Yeah. Hit them in the pocketbook.
hit them in the pocketbook.
Yes, sir.
This has just been delightful. I can't believe it took us so long to talk. To get together on the air. I mean, we've talked, but this has just been delightful. Very insightful, informative, direct to the point. You're a gem. I appreciate it, Ms. White.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. We will continue to rev up the audience, if you will. And I, like you, we broadcast internationally. I mean, we're on the internet 7 days a week. So, our show is not just a San Antonio show. Most of the time we precede these conversations with the fact that look around your hometown and see what's going on that this is similar to.
Right.
So because it's not just us. This may be the biggest case. We'd like for it to be one of the most visible cases, as is the Alamo. To
right.
me, that's, as you said, a worldwide symbol. We're proud of that fact, and we want to keep it in its proud condition. So, we will definitely get the word out there as often as we possibly can. And
I appreciate that,
if you know something that we can help with, you please call on us and say, "Doc, you done good, but you need to do more." And we will.
I appreciate that, Doc. If you can get me in New York for 5 seconds, I think we can end this problem. If I can let the world know what's going on down here in Texas. And let me tell you what, if it can happen in Texas, if it can happen in the Alamo, God help us all, because it'll happen anywhere.
Oh, it will happen anywhere. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like the way you think, and I will take that challenge. Maybe I can do that, or
all right.
make
Thanks,
some
Doc.
of that happen. Thank you for your time, Lee. We'll hope to see you soon. God bless you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Folks, that was a lot to absorb. I recorded it, and now I've just listened to it like you did, and I'm probably going to have to go back and listen to it again. That was just a lot to absorb. But on the second time around, I did come up with an idea about getting her in New York City. And basically, it's some of our affiliate stations that we work with, and we might just be able to get her up there, at least in voice, which, as you can see, she's very knowledgeable and stays on point. So I really do hope you enjoyed that. And don't think for a minute that that we're being told everything, because they can't. They, being the authorities, cannot possibly tell us everything, because they know how dastardly a deed that it is. Deep down in their heart of hearts, they know not necessarily that it's the wrong thing to do, because I don't think they have a very good concept of right and wrong. I think they have a a good concept of here and now and expanding their budget and bringing in more money so they can do more things with the city that they have envisioned. And which, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, if that's the way you want to live and that's the type of place you want to live in, if your hometown's the same way, they want to grow, and it's all about progress and that's fine. But there are some areas of town, in our town and in your town, that need not be disturbed for any reason whatsoever. They are your link to the past. Every little town has an old neighborhood, that should be kept, maintained, and be proud of, to show the roots of where you came from, which is what makes what you've done look so much better. Because we started here. There were 6 families, and this is where they are. And I have a hard time believing that little area is not in the center of an awful lot of American towns. And I think when you obliterate that, I think when you shuffle it around, I think when you move objects as if they were players on a chessboard, then you're destroying the culture. You're destroying the links that created it. It's not something that is openly describable, or can I make a visual for you, but make your own. Think about it. Think about your hometown and what you have done with your ancestors' area, if you will, of what they built up. Let me shift gears a little bit, but the first thing I'm going to do is believe it or not, take a break, and we'll play our little intro ditty that we play. Or I'm getting maybe we won't. Maybe we wipe it out.
Our intro? Okay.
Yeah, our little
I got it.
Around the clock. Okay. Let's do
yeah.
that as we kind of regroup, and then when we come back, we're going to shift gears over to the San Antonio firefighters and what they're doing, which is not at all disconnected from what Ms. White is doing to save the Alamo. It's all about the same thing. Mm-hmm. It really is. So it may appear disconnected, but it's not. So let's play the little intro and regroup. Go. All right. Since we don't do advertising on the show, I don't have the opportunity to sit back for 30 seconds or a minute or whatever while somebody's trying to sell you something and grab a drink of water. So you get to listen to our little version of Rock Around the Clock with Doc. Thank you. Need a sip of water. The next thing we're going to hear is from an artist that's very near and dear to our heart, a fellow by the name of Dave Bray, USA. And I think I played this a couple of weeks ago. It's a brand new YouTube that he's got out there. It is part of his Music with a Message new album that he's got on iTunes. And I wanted you to hear it because it'll set the tune or set the tone for discussion of the San Antonio firefighters, and know that what our San Antonio firefighters are doing for us, firefighters around the world do exactly the same thing. And the title of this music is Into the Fire. So give it to them.
Put on the armor, battle the devil's flames, into the fire I ran, chasing it back with all that I had, back to the hell from which it came. But the man who went in, he never came back. But I'd never trade the price that I paid for dancing with the devil. All the lives that I've saved, and I hope that you'll forgive me for doing what I love to do. I was made to fight the ashes, the embers and flames. I was born to make it rain, and that's why we run into the fire, into the blaze, the smoke and ashes and the flames. 'Cause it might just be you that I'm trying to save, for the ones that you love from that fiery grave. So please don't forget me. Remember my name, the man that I was, and the price that I paid for chasing the small town and fighting the flames. Was a battle I loved, and I'd do it all again. And that's why we run into the fire, into the blaze, the smoke and ashes and the flames. 'Cause it might just be you that I'm trying to save, for the ones that you love from that fiery grave. So I put on the armor to battle the devil's flames, into the fire I ran.
Dave Bray, USA. Dave Bray, USA. Music on a Mission. And it is what is called a storyteller album. Every song has a lead-in story that tells you why Dave created it. I highly recommend the album. You can go to iTunes or you can go to DaveBrayUSA.com and pick up a copy of it. It's very good. It's just one of the songs. I'd like to bring up a point. If you noticed, the name of the show is Y6.01. This is our first show in our 6th year of broadcasting. And the reason for that is we intentionally had our first broadcast on 9/11 of 13. And so we have, internally to the show, and actually to Alma and myself both, the events of 9/11 are quite significant. And, you know, we took them to heart and have held them close to our heart ever since. I hope you took the opportunity to at least have a silent moment of prayer or remembrance or something on 9/11 of this year. But that's why we didn't do a show on 9/11 because we do them on Thursdays. but this is our new year. This is the first show of our new year because the clock turns every year on 9/11. And, you know, I meant to point that out at the beginning of the show, and Uncle Bocce not being here, the rhythm was entirely off to begin.
Our feng shui is off.
It
now.
definitely was.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk. We've got a few minutes left. Speaking of running into the fire, and you heard about the story. Hopefully, if you've been with us, you heard the story of the Alamo, and not story of the Alamo, but the story of what's going on with the Alamo right now, and a thing called the cenotaph, which is basically the headstone for all of the Alamo defenders' bones and spirits, that the bones that they could find, and the spirits, of course, are all under this thing called the cenotaph. And the current administration is, pardon my Aggie accent, hell-bent for leather to rearrange this thing called the Alamo so that they can wall it off with a glass wall and make it a world-renowned hey, rah-rah, sort of a Disneyland telling the story of the Alamo on a more politically correct, you know, if you listen to them, you'd think that nobody won and nobody died, everybody lived, and it's all kumbaya and we all got along together. So, as you well know, if you know anything at all, you know that was not true. And so it is the birthplace for liberty and was a spark for freedom and liberty across the entire United States, although at the time we were not a state. But still, as we say today, it made the news. And so our local firefighters, the San Antonio Firefighters Association, has run into the fire and created 3 propositions, Proposition A, B, and C, which greatly, when combined, greatly limits the power of city government, of the individuals who are elected to run the office. What it does is the wording in it changes the city charter so that the city must conduct business in a far more open and transparent way and cannot simply do things without first taking it to a vote of the citizens. Basically, that's what it does. And needless to say, city government doesn't like that. They got a huge campaign called Go Vote No. And the Doc Owens Show is spearheading an opposition campaign built on Prop A, B, C. We played you a little clip last week. Go back and listen to it. I just don't have time to do it again today. But next week, we should have the final version of our Prop A, B, C support jingle. That's just what we'll call it. But understand that it was all, the whole idea was driven by the San Antonio Firefighters Association. And they are still driving this thing through petition to get it on the ballot and through ballot.
Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owens Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.